Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday Six-Pack.
All right, let's move to the Sunday Six-Pack. And before we get into it, some top-level notes from our Director of Research, Eben Abrams. NFL dogs of 6 or more this year are now 11-8 straight up. So winning outright more than 50% of the time. For comparison, 4-16 straight up through 5 weeks last season. And through 5 weeks, it's the first time since 1960 that dogs of 6 or more are over 500 straight up. And against the spread, they're 16-2-1, the best winning percentage ever. So that's something to note. There just hasn't been those monster dogs, though, like those double-digit dogs this year. A lot of closer, single-digit, within a touchdown type of dogs. So you expect those to win outright a little bit more, I will say that. But that is interesting nonetheless. Okay, so you have a 17-point deficit to make up.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, man. But I think you came from behind last year, so you can't count you out.
The most I was down last year was 11. 17
okay.
is... I'm going to have to put together like you've done. I got to go like 3 straight sweeps.
Hey, man, it's a lot of luck involved, as we know, but I'll lead it off this week.
There's still a lot of time left. We got 15, 16 weeks left. So, but I got to start getting hot. But I hope that I get hot, and then I hope I don't catch you, because I hope that you stay hot.
Right, yeah, because if you get hot and you don't catch me, that means our pod is just killing, which we hope to do.
That's the goal.
So, yeah.
I like a lot of your picks. Every week I've liked a lot of your picks that you've taken, so I like them again this week. So hopefully that's a good sign.
I feel like that's rarer. I feel like in past seasons it hasn't been as much, but
yeah,
that's good to know. But all right, I'll lead it off this week for my first pick, the first overall of the week, number 6 Sunday Six-Pack, getting real ugly right off the bat. The New England Patriots +7 at home against the Houston Texans, the 4-1 Houston Texans, who just knocked off the Buffalo Bills and held Josh Allen to less than completing a third of his passes. I like the Patriots here. I like the uncertainty that you get from Drake May. I like the upside that you get from Drake May, especially with a number this big, because you got to consider +7 at home a big number in 2024. But as you mentioned, Stuck, last week, Houston just isn't right. And I think that Nico Collins loss is a big loss. Nico got placed on IR. And listen to this. You know how we look at early downs because they're more predictive than, third down. There's a lot of variance. Early down success rate. The Houston Texans, 31st in the National Football League, ahead of only the Cleveland Browns. Houston is worse than New England in pass early down success rate, rush early down success rate, and total offensive early down success rate. Nico Collins, and that was with Nico Collins. Even in the game he got hurt last week, he caught a long bomb touchdown.
He's arguably the best receiver in the NFL this year.
Yeah, he's leading the league in receiving yards. So 17.7 yards a catch, 12.6 a target, a 6.7% touchdown rate. When Stroud is not thrown to Nico in 2024, he's averaging just 6.2 yards an attempt and a 2.9% touchdown rate. And for Stroud's career, Nico Collins has accounted for 33% of his passing yardage. And Stroud's career numbers with Nico compared to without, 65.2 completion drops to 62.7. Yards per attempt goes from 8.1 to 6.9. And his touchdown rate goes from 4.4 to 3.8. So massive loss here for an offense that was already out of sorts. And now you're going on the road where Stroud already has just been a lot more human. For his career, Stroud 9-2 straight up at home with a 106 passer rating, 4-5 on the road with just a 92 passer rating. The yards per attempt goes from 8.7 to 7.3. The touchdown rate from 5.4% to 3.2%. So Stroud already, outdoors, away from home, has been a lot more human. Now you take Nico out of the mix. Now you get this uncertainty with this new Patriot quarterback who their offensive line is terrible. Especially
that's why they need him in there. People are arguing the
exactly.
opposite. People are like, "Oh, you can't throw him in there. The offensive line is terrible." It's like, guys, first you're gonna find that Patriots aren't going anywhere this year. Let's find out what he's got. Oh, if he gets hit, you're gonna get hit in the NFL. You're gonna be under pressure. But you want Jacoby Brissett in the games that are like, you know, against like the Browns. It's like the spread's like -2, the total's 35. He's not going to turn it over. But he can't move. And Drake May, I loved what I saw in college with Drake May under pressure, and he can scramble, he can run.
Mm-hmm.
He adds another element of surprise and with his legs to this offense, which I think is needed behind this offensive line.
Yeah, and right now, if you're the Patriots, your offensive line is in dire straits. I mean, especially from a pass blocking perspective. So yeah, you need May, but you just got Kendrick Bourne back. Jalen Polk is playing, the most snaps he's ever played. So you might actually be in your optimal, receiving situation right now if Bourne can kind of pick it up. I think he was the number 4 receiver last game, but he might bump up to the number 3. So you'd have Polk, Douglas in the slot, and Bourne as the top 3. You still have Henry and Hooper healthy. So like you got all your skill guys and you got the quarterback best suited to navigate your line. Houston has seen no film on Drake May, so that's tough. And then you factor in that Houston hasn't won by more than 6 points all year. We're getting +7. Even in Caleb Williams' second start when he was still just kind of a disaster, to be frank. Houston beat Chicago by 6 points. And if you look at our luck rankings, Houston, the luckiest team in the National Football League, New England 26th. That 25 place difference, there's also a 56% gap. Both of those trigger a trend where 64% against the spread over the past 5 years on a near 200 game sample size. So this is a luck game. Houston's been getting really lucky. They've been sloppy. They haven't won by margin yet. And on early downs, they've been worse than New England, even with Nico Collins. So give me New England. It's disgusting, but I love it.
Yeah, this would have been one of mine again, which is a good sign. To me at least,
I was about
maybe
to
not
say
to you. So yeah, but we talk about this all the time. Like Stroud and this Texans team is a favorite. I mean, Stroud's just 2-7 against the spread since he came in the league as a favorite of 3 or more. It's the worst mark in the league since he was drafted. And this Texans team, the staff just tends to get too conservative at times, and yeah, they're just not firing on all cylinders right now. The only reason they've covered a game this year, and granted they should have covered against the Bills, but they maybe are sitting here at 0-5 against the spread, which just shows you they're not living up to expectations. If Sean McDermott doesn't go full terrorist at the end of the game, with Josh Allen just dropping back and not running any clock, and so yeah, they haven't been great. We have seen this team as in the role as a favorite in the past, not succeed. And I like New England. I'm a believer in Drake May, and I think he's needed here to deal with the pressure because Houston is going to get pressure, use his legs as an added element. And I think the Patriots keep this within a touchdown.
And it's crazy. Everyone's talking about McDermott and Josh Allen. And imagine where would Houston be cover-wise, maybe even record-wise without Kaimi Fairbairn? Like this dude, I feel like he doesn't miss. You just line him up 59. He's not Aubrey, but he's pretty money. So it could be worse. It could be worse. But where are you going?
All right, for my first pick in the second overall, the Week 6 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with, you guessed it, no surprise, the Tennessee Titans +1.5 against the Indianapolis Colts. Titans have covered one game this year. It was the game I didn't bet them. So that shows you all you need to know. But I did overcome. I couldn't win a bet on Tennessee in college football until this past weekend. So maybe I'm due. But I just think, look, this is number one. This is a good spot for Tennessee coming off of a bye. which I think in a team with so many new pieces, especially, even the offensive line with a really good offensive line coach to figure out some things there. I think the bye came at a really good time for this Tennessee team. Also, just got a win. Indianapolis, second straight road game. And more importantly, this is a team that's, I mean, their defense has been on the field as much as any team over the past 25 years to this point in the season. And they're dealing with a number of injuries still. They're not at full strength. And this is still a bad defense, a very static defense, a simple defense. You have 2 weeks to prepare for it. They're not going to bring a ton of pressure. They're not going to play man. And by the way, Will Levis, if he does indeed get the start here, has been better against zone than man. If it's Mason Rudolph, I probably like that a little better due to the less of a chance of there being a catastrophic mistake or 2 or 3. But I also think if Will Levis is healthy enough to go, and he does go, and he makes a catastrophic mistake, now I think Callahan, quick leash. It's all right, we're going to Rudolph. So I do like that. I didn't think that was a possibility in the past, but after that Miami game and what Rudolph showed, I think that is a possibility here. Tennessee also should be healthier coming out of the bye. Awuzie did hit IR, which is a bit of a concern, but I think Simmons is going to come back along that defensive line. Tennessee has the significantly better defensive line. Colts, who's playing running back? I don't know. I mean, Trey Sermon didn't practice today. Jonathan Taylor didn't practice today. Yeah, it's going to be just Goodson. And I think that Anthony Richardson's going to get the start, which is what I want here. I think the Colts are significantly better with Joe Flacco at quarterback. Richardson practiced today. He is their guy. And everyone talks about Will Levis and his disastrous start to the year, rightfully so. Not enough people are talking about Anthony Richardson. And a lot of it's because Joe Flacco has been good and came into a couple games. But, I mean, you look at EPA plus completion percentage over expectation. The only 2 guys in the league that are in the negative are Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. I mean, Richardson's 32nd, Bryce Young's 33rd. Will Levis is sitting at 20th. Completion percentage over expectation, Will Levis 5.5% above expectation. With 8.5, it's at a decent air yard average. Anthony Richardson is right there with Bryce Young. You're negative 10%. He's not been accurate. He's not been good. I just, this Tennessee defense, I think, should give him problems. And I just don't trust him to make the throws, and the rushing attack should be neutered with some injuries. I like Tennessee to get this win. I think if you look at all of the injuries, and Richardson's made some catastrophic mistakes too with his interceptions, just some awful throws. So if you look at the current construction of these 2 rosters, with all the injuries the Colts are dealing with, I think the Titans have the better team. And you look at the quarterbacks, it's like 2 guys who are struggling, who make catastrophic mistakes. And then you throw in the spot with Tennessee coming off of a bye. I like the Titans to get it done at home.
Yeah, I mean, this line essentially says the Colts are 3+ points better than the Titans on the neutral field, which not in this state. And even if it's Joe Flacco, I think you might disagree, but I think the Jacksonville defense is a special kind of bad. So I think even Flacco is coming in here a little overrated because, I mean, that Jacksonville defense, just no resistance. So either way, I mean, Flacco was kind of a turnover machine last year, even when he was throwing for 300 plus with the Browns all day. So this would have been one of mine, but I knew I was going to sacrifice somewhere, but I had to grab the Patriots. So I'll let you roll with the Titans here, but I like this one too. Okay. For my second pick, the 3rd overall of the week 6 Sunday 6-pack, told you we're getting disgusting and we're staying disgusting. New Orleans plus 3.5 at home against the Bucks with a TBD quarterback. It's either going to be Haener or Spencer Rattler. I kind of hope it's Rattler, to be honest.
Same.
But yeah,
if I knew it was Rattler, this was going to be one of my picks. I did bet this as well, so I agree.
Yeah, and just let's do some math. This line, Sunday afternoon, before New Orleans played the Chiefs and all that. -2.5 for the Saints. So the Bucs had already played. They played on Thursday. Saints hadn't played yet. This line was -2.5. Derek Carr is not worth 6 points to the spread. I'm sorry. I mean, he had a couple good games early on, but we saw, Derek Carr giveth and Derek Carr taketh away. And a lot of the same issues that were plaguing the Saints offense last year under Carmichael with Derek Carr are starting to rear their head again. It's like it's either a short pass or a low percentage deep shot, and there's not a lot in between. And so I just can't get to Derek Carr being worth more than about a field goal, maybe a little more than that to the spread, regardless of whether it's Haener or Rattler. I think either way, you're getting a little more mobility than Carr because he gives you pretty much none. And you still have this New Orleans team at home, number 4 in overall DVOA. So this team was a pretty good team, even if you're bringing in a bad quarterback in his first start. Tampa Bay is 15th. New Orleans pass defense should be able to disrupt Mayfield. Just 1 touchdown pass allowed on the year, 7 picks. They're 5th in adjusted net yards per attempt allowed, 7th in pressure rate. Baker, 8.1 yards an attempt clean, 5.5 under pressure. And New Orleans is number 1 in DVOA against number 1 receivers. Lattimore always gives Evans fits.
Fight.
Right, exactly. Yeah, or suspensions or, ejections. So this New Orleans team is still going to compete in this spot and be a tough out regardless of what's going on with their offense. And Tampa Bay, they only played one other top 10 defense. And they played 4 defenses that were ranked between 15th and 27th. They Washington, Detroit, Philly, and Atlanta. 3 of those 4 were outside the top 20. Against those defenses, Tampa Bay averaged 30 points a game and 347 yards. Fine, good. Against the only top 10 defense they saw, which was Denver, 7 points, 223 yards. They were just completely stymied. So I wouldn't just bank on Tampa Bay lighting up the scoreboard here. And for New Orleans, you saw with Tampa Bay's defense, just when you thought they might be coming together, they go and give up over 500 passing yards to Kirk Cousins, and with Daryl Hodge, guy who gets like 2 snaps a game, get a walk-off. So this defense still has some holes, even in the pass game. Hopefully we get Taysom back. I don't know, but that would be ideal here. But even if you don't, you still got Kamara, you still got Shaheed, you still got Olave. And like I said, Derek Carr, he wasn't maximizing Olave. He was dumping down to Kamara almost too much at times. And I think he was I like that he was throwing to Shaheed and giving him some shots, but it almost became, especially against the Chiefs there, it just became too much. So I think another quarterback that play a little differently, maybe add some more mobility, a quarterback that the Bucs haven't seen on film. I think this could go really well for New Orleans, especially when you're getting over a field goal here. Baker Mayfield as a favorite, just 15 and 27 in his career against the spread, 36%. And Todd Bowles is a favorite of a field goal or more, just 8 and 15, 35% against the spread for his career. So give me the Saints at home plus 3.5.
Yeah, this probably would have been one of my picks, especially if I knew Rattler was playing. I think he gives them more upside. I do think you could argue Carr is maybe worth 5 to 6 points of spread if he had a healthy offensive line. But the offensive line is in shambles. If you look, the pressure rate allowed has fallen off a cliff over the past couple weeks because of all the injuries. So what do you need in there? You need someone with more mobility. You need someone that can bring a little bit of QB run game as well. I agree. It would be nice to have Taysom Hill back. Rib fractured usually 2 to 3 weeks. So
yeah,
maybe, but probably not. But we'll see. If he tough kid. So or tough guy. If he can give it a go, they can get creative with him, and he's obviously extremely important in short yardage situations in the red zone. But they also could just lean into the run here. The Tampa Bay defense is vulnerable against the run. We'll see if Tampa Bay gets a little healthier on defense with Winfield and Kancey coming back. But they still are vulnerable against the run. That's what New Orleans wants to do. They can lean into that here. And I think having a mobile quarterback with this offensive line situation does help. On the surface, it's a bad spot. Just look, you have a new quarterback. It's a short week. Tampa Bay off extended rest. So, and you're dealing with offensive line injuries. But yeah, I agree. I can't get to this much of an adjustment, especially when you consider going through 3.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different if this line was sitting at 3, but now that it's crossed the king, the almighty king 3, I think this is too much of an adjustment for New Orleans and Tampa Bay. I mean, you want to talk about luck rankings. I mean, this team's been an injury merchant all year. They played the Eagle. They beat down on the Eagles, which is really inflating a lot of their numbers. The Eagles were missing their entire team, like everyone that was important on the offense. I almost like just throw that data point out. And, they played Detroit. They beat Detroit, which is also inflating their numbers. Detroit dominated that game. I mean, look, what they outgained them by like 200 yards. They're in the red zone 7 times, couldn't score. So a bit of a paper tiger here in the Bucs, who I was not high on coming into the year. I think that in this bad spot, though, it's like, our quarterback's out. That kind of gets everyone to rally. It's a divisional game at home. I've still liked the Saints defense a ton. They can match up with the Bucs receivers, which is question one you have to ask when handicapping a Bucs game. So yeah, I like the Saints here over a field goal at home. All right, for my second pick and the 4th overall of the Week 6 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 2.5 against the Chicago Bears. I'm waiting for a 3 here. We'll see if it pops. I imagine the entire world's gonna be betting the Bears, but I personally can't get to this number. I think right now, as it stands, the 2 most overrated teams in the league, just based on record and maybe perception, are the Bucs because of that Lions fluke and the Eagles injury game, and the Bears. The Bears are 3-2. They could easily be 1-4. I was wrong on the Panthers last week, but I mean, if you look at that game, Panthers lose more defensive guys. They lose 2 offensive linemen. There goes the one Panther strength. I would have liked the Panthers this week. Again, need 7 though, for what it's worth there, because they had one really, really good aspect of their team, their offensive line. 2 starters done last week in that Bears game. All right, so that was a good performance. How about the week before? This is a team that got extremely lucky against the Rams. I was on them. They were laying 3 at home against the Rams. The Rams practice squad with one of the worst defenses in the league, no receivers, backup offensive linemen. They get outplayed in that game. Yes, they win. But, week before you play the Colts. You lose that game, one of the worst defenses in the league. So people are saying that Caleb Williams is improving, which he is a bit, and this run game has got going. They've played the Rams, Colts, and Panthers over the past 3 weeks. It does not get any easier than that and look, the Panthers had offensive line injuries and wide receiver injuries. The Rams had offensive line and wide receiver injuries. The Colts had all kinds of injuries on defense. We're playing Anthony Richardson. I think this defense is a bit overrated too. They're susceptible to the explosive play, which Jacksonville can certainly hit. But if you just look at the recent lines of Chicago, -3 at home against the Rams, get outplayed at home. I think they were almost outgained by almost a yard per play. They were just -4. They're 4-point favorites at home against Carolina. Now 2.5-point favorites on a neutral field over Jacksonville. So we're saying Jacksonville is equivalent to a beat-up Carolina team, is worse than the Rams practice squad? No, I don't think so. So I think, look, and the Jags should get Evan Ingram back. It's a huge element to the passing attack that's been missing. Meanwhile, the Bears will be missing Brisker on the back end. And I'm just not fully sold on this Bears staff or this offense or Caleb Williams yet. He is improving, and I expect him to be a solid starting quarterback in the NFL, but still too inaccurate. He has struggled more versus man coverage, which he's going to see a lot of here. Jags defense isn't great, but they should be able to get pressure here. Still not a buyer in the Bears offensive line. I mean, who they were last week. They were facing a Panthers team incapable of getting pressure. And then, a bunch of guys go down on top of that, and they were already missing a bunch of starters. So I think both of these teams, like the Jags could have beat the Texans. You look at that data point. I think these two teams are basically about even. The Bears, they were lucky to cover that game, but Jags, you could argue, outplayed the Texans in Houston. They should have beat the Dolphins. So, I mean, this is a team that easily could be 3-2. The Bears could easily be 1-4, 2-3. And then this line is a coin flip, which is where I think it is. I do like that the Bears went overseas early in the week to adjust their body clocks. I think that is the smart move. But the Jags do have a ton more experience in these spots. The staff has no experience doing this. This is routine for the Jags at this point. So, yeah, I'm going to wait to see if I can get a 3. Doesn't matter for this contest. I think that this is basically a coin flip game. I'll take the Jags plus 2.5.
Yeah, I don't know if it feels great about this one. I mean, I think we were talking last week, and I was like with the Panthers, like the Bears are they could have this kind of like blow up anytime. And I do think that what I'm not confident in is really this Jag offense against this Bear defense. I think the Indianapolis Colts defense, I mean, they were just so decimated, and it was just a perfect spot for Trevor Lawrence. And he turned it over early, but rebounded. I mean, he had a bunch of explosive plays. I don't think as much of that is going to be there as consistently against the Bears. I think I do think that the defense is legit. Like they've allowed under 20 in 4 or 5 and 21 or fewer in 11 straight dating back to last season. So I do think the Bears can kind of muck it up a little bit. I do think Caleb Williams and the Bears offense has been kind of getting some great matchups, but I would really like if I'm.
You don't think the defense has been getting good matchups? I mean, they
have, but I think this is another.
They're the easiest schedule in the league so far.
I think it's another good one. But
yeah, this is good. But they're fine. Like week 1, you play. Will Levis throws away the game, block punt. Matt Stafford doesn't have any receivers or offensive line. Anthony Richardson's terrible. By the way, they lost that game, and they only. We talk about the Colts defense with the Jags did. The Bears only put up 15 points in that game.
I like the under in this game, so I'm not even.
And then you play the Panthers, who were guys were falling, They were just dropping like cheap tents throughout the game. I mean, so it was a good win, but I'm not fully sold yet. Yes, it's another good matchup against the Jags D, but this will be, one of the more just finally like a competent, healthy offense that they're going to face. So, I just think this should be a coin flip. So I'll take the 2.5.
All right. For my third and final pick, the 5th overall of the week number 6 Sunday 6-pack. Told you it would be ugly. We're going Denver plus 3 at home against the Chargers. And this is a number I just cannot get to because, yes, the Chargers are coming off a bye. So you give them a boost for that. But this is still saying the Chargers are 4.5 points better than Denver, maybe 5 on a neutral field, depending on how much you value Denver's home field. I just can't get there. Even with the Chargers getting healthier, yes, Herbert, Slater, Joe Alt should be healthier and back in the lineup, but are they 100% healthy? Who knows? And then you look at these teams, and they're kind of very similar. They're very good defenses with offenses that really haven't done anything. So you're really counting on the Chargers to just be like over almost a field goal and a half better than they've been all year, because this Bronco team is 16th in DVOA, 25th on offense. The Chargers are 19th in DVOA, 24th on offense. So they've both been bad, but we're giving the Chargers a bump because we assume that they'll be better with a healthier Herbert and their 2 tackles backs. But I just don't know how much better Denver is number 2 in pressure rate. And when you look at these 2 defenses, they've both been top 5, but Denver is number 2 in pressure. The Chargers are 24th in pressure. The Chargers are also allowing the second highest completion rate. And then you look at common opponents, Justin Herbert against the Raiders only 5.5 yards per attempt. Like even Bo Nix was 7.4. Herbert 6.5 against Carolina, not a common opponent, but 6.5 against Carolina. Every other quarterback or team they faced averaged 7.4. It's just, I just don't really have enough confidence in this Charger team to bump them up, 4 or 5 points from what they've been playing like. They want to run the ball, but they've been one of the worst rush offenses in the league. Their early down success rate running the ball of 30.2% is 30th. Denver, for all the struggles they've had running the ball with Javonte Williams and McLaughlin this year, they're 8th in early down rush success rate. So I just can't get to this number, especially with Denver being at home. It's going to be a defensive game. Bo Nix might average 2.2 yards per attempt, but he's not taking many sacks anymore. He's not committing many turnovers. And I just can't get to this. I can't get to the Chargers being, 4.5, 5 points better on a neutral field. Sean Payton, 52-35 and 260% against the spread as a dog, 3-1 this season. He dragged that Russell Wilson ghost of a team with the 70-point allowed defense last year to 8 wins. So there's a chance this Bronco team is just mid to above average, and we just don't know it yet. This Charger team, I like the defense, but I can't get to this number. So give me the Broncos +3.
Yeah, I don't mind taking the home dog, catching a field goal here with this low of a total. And the injury uncertainty could only work in your favor. I would like to see I would like to get more clarity on who's playing for the Chargers, especially along that offensive line. Because, they could have you argue they'd probably beat the Chiefs if they're at full strength. I think they beat the Steelers. If Herbert doesn't get hurt, their whole offensive line doesn't go down. They've also had defensive injuries. So this team might be a bit better than I'm giving them credit for, but I need to see more, and I need to see how healthy they will be. So as of right now, it's a pass for me, but at 3 with this low of a total and the injury uncertainty with the Chargers, I think it's Denver or nothing. So I think you're on the right side there. But for my third pick and the 6th and final pick of the Week 6 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I think you owe me a hook. So there's a 3.5 -125 out there.
Take it.
I would get.
No, take it. You got it.
Yeah, I would buy up to -125. Number one, I just can't get to this number. And especially if I'm getting over a field goal, even if I have to pay a bit for it, willing to do that here. The Cowboys defense is still a mess. The injuries are still a thing along the defensive line. Is Detroit going to have success running the ball here? Yes. But I just can't get to this number. The Detroit defense is still really bad, especially in the secondary. I don't expect Dallas to have a ton of success running the ball. That's Detroit's defensive strength. But they did change up last week some of their run blocking schemes, which I think were more conducive to what this offensive line and backfield is. So maybe they have a bit more success than expected, just like they did last week against the Steelers. Granted, the Steelers had a number of guys go down along that defensive line, which didn't help, and at linebacker. But the whole operation looked better. But this is all about just Dak dropping back against this bad and still bad Detroit secondary. And what does Detroit want to do? They want to play man. Dak carves up man. So I think Dallas can match them here, score for score. And they also have a special teams advantage here, which when you're catching over 3 at home isn't insignificant, especially in that stadium. You start at the 30-yard line. What do you got to get to? The 50? And then you score? 20-yard drives, you score with Aubrey at home? That's insane. At some point, he's going to hit a 70-yarder, I think, at home. You got to get to the 48-yard line. You don't have to cross midfield, and you can score. So, yeah, I just can't get to this number. I get the Lions are going to have success running the ball, but I'll take the better quarterback here. I get Goff had his perfect game, but it was against an exhausted Seattle defense that was missing a ton of starters all over. Goff still hasn't looked great this year. So Give me Dak as a home dog to carve up this defense and keep it close in a what should be a just back and forth affair.
Yeah, I make it inside of 3 as well. I don't usually bet against the Lions just off principle, just because they have like some ridiculous against the spread record. But I do think they are. I think it's the Cowboys are the side. Like I make this like 1.5 or so. You know, I think
I'm at like
too early in the season.
1.78. So yeah, even accounting for the injuries, the bye week, could never get to 3.
Yeah, this should be a competitive. It should be a competitive game. And didn't Dallas win that last one with some help from the refs in the? I think they matched up last year. It was like a 20-19 game because
I'm sure Campbell will have something cooked up for this with
the sixth lineman.
the 6th lineman and who's eligible. But yeah, I just think this Dallas's offense should move the ball. This is a really good matchup for Dak. So yeah, I'll take the Cowboys.
All right, so we got some. Besides Dak, you got some ugly quarterbacks. You got Will Levis / maybe Mason Rudolph, Trevor Lawrence, who I feel like fits into that ugly quarterback category this year, and then Dak. And then I got Drake May, Hayner or Rattler, and Bo Nix. So that is peak disgustingness outside of Dak. But Tennessee.
And you almost, for full transparency, you almost had you almost went with the Browns. So you would have had
I almost did, Watson. Man. But
we'll talk about that game later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that game, and we'll talk about the Panthers too, because both of those were on my list, but thought better of it. So just to recap, Stuck has Tennessee +1.5, Jacksonville +2.5, Dallas +3.5. I have New England +7, New Orleans +3.5, Denver +3. That's going to do it for our Week 6 Sunday 6-pack. Now it's time for our Coach of Stuck.